Hey guys, how's it going? Kriparian here. The card dump is upon us. We have all of the remaining cards from the Rastakhan expansion, and I'm going to give you guys just a run through today. We're going to use our star system. It's going to be a little bit more accurate because now we actually have all of the cards. It's also important to know that basically it is the card dump. Like, these are mostly filler cards. A lot of these are actually pretty good arena cards, but like the best of the bunch was probably in the last card reveal/review if you guys want to get hyped. Number 9 and number 8 had some real gems. There's a few gems in this one, but there's a lot of arena/filler cards, so brace yourselves and keep in mind, because a lot of these are filler cards, I'm going to run through those fairly quickly because there's really not that much to say about every single one of them. Alright, so let's kick it off here. We got Scorch, new mage removal. It's a 4-cost deal 4, which is usually enough if you're playing it on turn 4, but it costs 1 if you play an elemental that turn, or the previous turn, that is. So, it's not bad, you know, it's not like quite as good as Fireball, but if you have like a lot of elementals anyway, yeah, it's not bad, right? It's okay, it's alright. I think it's pretty fair, like a 3-star card. It's pretty good. It's going to be very good in Arena because it's just more removal, and it has some chance to see playing Constructed because it looks like Elementals got a lot of support, and it may seem like Elementals will be getting continued support. And this is not the first time Mage is having the Elemental thing, and they certainly feed off of each other. Next up, we got the Tortoise. 3-cost 3/5, but you hit yourself for 5. Yeah, this card kind of sucks. They played it in the reveal stream and like a heal priest, and I get it. You want to take damage so you can heal up that damage so you can synergize your other cards. That's literally the only way where you want to play this card. This card is just like a terrible version of Pit Lord otherwise, so don't play it under any other circumstance. And honestly, I think even under the heal paladin circumstance, this card sucks. I'm going to give this card 2 stars, not 1, just because there's some extreme outside chance of constructed play. It's pretty weak in Arena, but not hopeless, because it's a lot of stats on turn 3, so you can snowball that out of control. So, you know, it's not like hopeless. It's not like 1 star, but it's pretty bad. Demonbolt is the next Warlock removal. Oh, this is a really good one. So it destroys a minion. It costs 1 less for each minion you control. So you can make this cost 1 if you have an absolutely full board, and you can make it cost, well, 8 if you have no minions on the board. The idea is this becomes your choice removal when you're playing Zoo. And if you're playing Zoo, is this a good card? Oh, you betcha. This is a good card if you're playing Zoo. This is like a really good card if you're playing Zoo. The main problem with Zoo is it often competes with other slightly more dominant versions of Zoo from other classes. Like right now, Zoo does well, but if you want to do really well, you play like Odd Rogue or Odd Paladin, which is kind of like a Zoo with a little bit more consistency because of the upgraded hero power. So I think Demonbolt as a card, just like Demonbolt itself, I think it's very close to 5. I hesitate to give it 5 because I don't think it's going to define the Zoo archetype, but I'm going to give it 4.5 stars for Demonbolt, just with a pretty big fat asterisk here. I don't think it's going to be that good until Baku and Gen rotate out. Until Odd Paladin and Odd Rogue and whatever, until that stuff rotates out, I think Zoo will just continue to struggle a little bit. But this is a really good card for Zoo Warlock, nonetheless. And I think, you know, some time from now where people are no longer playing those more consistent Zoo decks, this is going to shine more than you think. Flash of Light, restore 4 health and draw a card for Paladin. I'll just say this card is 5 stars. There is no circumstance where this card is bad. I think even if you're playing a fairly aggressive deck, you would consider playing this. It's just so good. It's a card cycle for 2 mana. That's just kind of good enough, and you heal for 4. You can heal a minion for tempo, or you can heal your face. It's just so good. It's so good, and it draws cards. There's just no chance that this card is bad. This card is crazy good. This is one of the best commons in the set, and you'll be hard-pressed to not include this card in any Paladin deck, except, of course, like Odd Paladin, because it's not an odd card. Blood Troll Sapper. It's a 7-cost 5/8. After a friendly minion dies, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. This is really interesting because it allows Zoo to kind of play its archetype where, you know, you can keep dominating the board, so you can do like super value trades while actually doing the face damage and, you know, closing out the game relatively quickly. So, you know, the effect is really powerful. The downside is, only costs 7 mana. That's a pretty big fat downside, okay? I actually think that kind of kills the card for constructed play, but, you know, it's still pretty good. There's like some outside chance where Zoo is good, and it can afford to have a 7-cost card that is not typically being discarded to like Doom Guards and stuff. That's a really outside chance. For the time being, it just looks like a pretty solid arena card to me. There could be some scenarios where you could like defile down, you know, double kill a bunch of minions that have death rattles and just, you know, kind of have like a combo effect off of this card. That's a pretty big outside chance as well. I'm giving it 2 stars. It's a bad card, but it has all these like really small chances of being included in a few decks, so maybe keep your eye out on the future of this card. Bloodclaw, paladin weapon, 1 cost, 2/2, deals 5 damage to your hero. But you have to keep in mind, in the early game, you typically take a decent bit of damage when your opponent gets a foothold on the board. So if your opponent has like a 3/2 they're going to play on turn 2, and you don't have a 2-drop, you're typically going to take like, you know, 3 to 6 damage anyway. So taking 5 is really not that big of a deal if you can get this consistently in the early game. And if you're playing a paladin deck just filled with heals and you want to actually trigger these heals to further synergize the rest of your deck, this card can be really good. The base power level is maybe a little bit weak, because if you draw this at any point past like turn 3 or 4, it's just kind of a really crappy card, but it's so good in the early game that I feel on average it compensates for that. I can't say it's a very high power level card, but it's certainly one that a lot of people would overlook. I think my 3-star rating will have you perhaps look again, because it's really a card with some potential here. It can be extremely good in some decks. One of the main things that odd paladin struggles is weapons, and this is a odd 1-cost weapon. So, do not count this card out. We have Cheaty, anklebiter. It's not quite a pack filler. It's got lifesteal. It deals 1 damage, so you get the life back from that 1 damage. It's like a guaranteed heal. So at worst, it's, heal for 1, deal 1, and maybe gain some more or absorb some damage. Is that good? It's not bad. Not a bad card. I give it 2 stars just based on the power level alone. It's just not a hopeless card. It's, kind of cool. It does stuff. It does damage right away. Anything with any kind of removal effect is good in arena, so not too bad overall. Serrated Tooth is a rogue weapon. 1 cost, 1/3, so the stats suck. The death rattle gives your minions rush. So that's kind of difficult to time, you might think, but it's really not, because if you absolutely need to use it on a specific turn, you can overwrite this weapon with the rogue hero power. So you actually have more control over this than you might think. Overall, though, I think the card is relatively weak, but it's 1 mana, so that's kind of fine that it is relatively weak. I think this card would be just like easy 5 stars if it's not a 5-star card, but if it had your minions have rush this turn, if it would be like an ongoing aura, that would actually enable a lot of different and cool combos. But I'm pretty sure the way it works is it just grants rush to whatever's in play when you use the last charge or destroy the weapon with your hero power. In which case, it's pretty limiting and it kind of sucks. Again, it's not completely hopeless because rush is a powerful effect, but I'd say it's pretty close to hopeless. I'm giving it 2 stars because I just don't really see it. Halftime Scavenger, 3/5 for 4 with stealth, overkill, 3 armor. I mean, obviously this is like good arena card, and obviously these cards are never going to be constructed viable. It's good in arena, but it doesn't really crush arena. It's just good. So 1 star, nothing fancy. Pack filleroni, boys. Pounce, however, is a little bit different. It's a 0 cost that gives your hero 2 attack this turn. It certainly helps fuel some of these synergistic things that they try to push with Druid, which is kind of like kill things with your hero, which is really terrible, by the way, but nonetheless, it is what it is. This is a good card because it costs 0, so it's not that it might be good in that deck, but I still think that deck archetype is complete garbage. But, you know, maybe it's not, and if it's not, this card is going to be one of the best cards in that deck, so fine, whatever, it has some potential there. But the main reason this card is good is just because it costs 0 mana, that's it. So, you know, there's a lot of Druid decks that run combo, and you want to run as many 0 or mana production cards as possible to cycle with draw engines like Auchenai. And this is that. It's a 0-cost backstab where you just take some damage in the early game, and it's a full-on cycle for 0 with Auchenai in play. That alone makes the card pretty damn good. This is a 4-star card, boys. It's deceptively powerful just because it costs 0 mana. 0 mana cards, you always get a second look, you always get a third look, and typically you're happy that you took enough looks at these type of cards. Low mana cost cards are very good. 0-cost cards are typically very interesting. Mosh'ogg Enforcer, this card is garbage. It's just garbage. There's really nothing to say. It's a 1-star card. It's terrible in Arena because it's so easily countered and you wouldn't even think to play it in Constructed. New Hunter weapon at 2 cost 2/2. If you control a beast, you get 1 durability. So it's like 6 damage if you played a 1-cost beast on turn 1 that's still alive. So, you know, if you're playing Hunter and you can deal 6 damage from 2 mana, that's actually pretty good. Hunters want like a lot of early game weapons. If Hunters win the early game, they typically just win the game. So this is a pretty good card. It's, again, pretty deceptively powerful, but one thing that Hunters have consistently received in this expansion is cards that they just need that they don't really have. Like card draw, like generation, like weapons. This is the weapon aspect. So this is actually a pretty good card. I'm going to have to give it 3 stars. I don't think it's going to define the archetype, but it might. It's possible Face Hunter will come back, and if Face Hunter comes back, this is a card they'll look at including in their deck. The Hunter Spirit, I was going to say Green Spirit. The Hunter Spirit is a 3-cost, and it gives your beasts +1/+1 when you summon them. So obviously there's some combos and stuff, but we've seen effects like these in the past. There was like a Druid card that was 3-cost 2/2, and it wasn't just beasts, it was any minions. And people were playing token Druids at that time, and people were not playing that card. I saw people, when they were doing the reveal stream, pretty excited about this card. I think there's nothing to be excited about. I could be wrong because it looks like they have a lot of support for like Quest Hunter, and Quest Hunter very much is kind of like Token Druid, so I wouldn't count this card out, but the base power level of the card is really low, and it's probably going to be out of the game when Quest Hunter or maybe, you know, very aggressive hunters roll out. I don't know. I don't really see it. I'm giving it 2 stars. I think it's garbage in Arena, and I think it has very small chance to be included in some very specific hunter decks, but very small. We have a Dragon. It's a 5-cost 3/6, which is defensive stats, but it's pretty decent if you play a control deck, and you deal 1 damage to all other minions when you play it. This is just a good card. You know, small board clears like this on well-statted cards are typically used in control decks. Typical control deck is Warrior, and Warriors right now, they have Dragons. Dragon is the thing that Warriors want to play. It's also Odd, which improves its availability in Warrior, so it's just overall a very strong card. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I don't think it's quite 4. I think it's competing for a decent bunch of powerful Dragon cards, so I don't think it'll be included in that many decks, but I think you will encounter this card when you're playing in the upcoming expansion. Arena Fanatic. This card is garbage. There's really nothing to say. We've seen these effects in the past, and they had to be on much cheaper cards to even be considered for anything. 1-star card, garbage in Arena, hopeless in Constructed. And we have the Hunter Loa. It is Halazzi the Lynx. So it's a beast. It's a 3/2, and it fills your hand with 1/1 lynxes that have Rush, which is pretty good, but it costs 5 mana. So I know some people think this card is good, but like 5 mana is so much for Hunter. Like if you're playing a 5 mana 3/2 in Hunter, you're like giving up the board. So like if you're winning and you're playing this, then your opponent will be winning, and you literally count on those lynxes to take the board back. Which, yeah, most of the time they will, but why not just play something good for 5 mana if you're winning, and that way you will keep winning. Right? Yeah, I think so. And if you're losing and you're playing a 5 mana 3/2, I think you're kind of screwed. So it's too much mana. It's a strong effect. I think it's going to be a really cool card when you're getting it off of like the Death Knight, Hunter, Deathstalker, Rexar combinations of zombies or whatever. It just costs too much mana. It's 5 mana is too much. This card would be super crazy at 3 mana. It'd be like all right at 4. I think at 5 it kind of sucks. I'm giving it 2 stars. It's going to be a good arena card just because it's a very high value card with impactful rush and whatever. But in constructed, I think the competition is just a little bit too tough. It costs too much mana, and I think people will just choose to just play good 5 mana cards instead of this one, or just good late game cards instead of just better options in constructed. Dragon Roar. Warrior card, add 2 dragons to your hand. It's a very interesting card because you have to really think about all the different dragons and ask yourself the question, would I want one specific dragon in my deck, or would I rather have 2 random ones? And I thought about this for a while, and I've come to the conclusion that a lot of the time I'd rather have 2 random ones, because if I have like one big dragon and I'm playing this and I get 2 big dragons, then that's really good. You know, that's better because you get more value and more dragons. If I have like, you know, kind of like a mid-range deck, it's basically going to even out. The only way where Dragon Roar is bad is where you're like, you know, getting 2 early game dragons. If you get 1 late and 1 early, that's still as good as keeping 1 late game dragon in your deck. If you have 1 late game dragon, it's better if you get 2 late game dragons. The only bad case is if you're not playing an aggressive deck and you get 2 small dragons from Dragon Roar. And really, there's not that many small dragons. So Dragon Roar is actually a really good card. It's deceptively good, and until they ruin the dragon pool, I think it will stay that way. I'm giving it 4 stars. Oh, and it's also absolutely crazy in Arena. There's so many legendary dragons that would win the game instantly. This card is going to be crazy in Arena. Warriors absolutely have the tools to stall out. Oh my god, the more I'm thinking about it, crazier it is. And in Constructed, I think it's just good enough to be included in Dragon Warrior, and so far Dragon Warrior is shaping up to be a pretty good deck. Devastate. 1 cost, deal 4 damage to a damaged minion. So it's kind of like Execute, but not exactly. In Constructed, you'd often use Execute on something small, but not always. That flexibility is a pretty big deal, and having 2 mana instead of 1 mana is not that big of a deal, except for, of course, Odd Warrior. So Devastate, I think, will see some play because of Odd Warrior. Odd Warrior sometimes struggles with removing things in the early game. Yes, you can just armor up and hold tight, but sometimes that's not the best way to do things. I think this card has a chance to be played in Odd Warrior, and Odd Warrior is like pretty good, so you know, if Odd Warrior sticks around and you know the competition for cards in the early game isn't too tough, this card might see play. It's removal, so it's pretty decent in Arena. I'm giving it 3 stars. It's just kind of like an average card with some viability potentially. Arena Patron. It's like some demented trash version of Grim Patron. There's like no chance where you're playing this. The card's terrible. Yeah, if you have like a perpetual rush effect like Houndmaster, wow, maybe you can get like 2 or 3 of these or something. I don't know. It's so bad. It's one star card. This is like the meme of the expansion, but maybe we'll make a deck around it. And speaking of memes, we have Arena Treasure Chest. More memes, I guess. I don't know. It sucks. Death Rattle will draw 2 cards for 4. 4. Okay. If this card costs 3, I wouldn't think it's very good, but it costs 4 and has no attack. Wow. I mean, you'd have to be playing a really fast combo deck to put this in your deck. Wow, this card is so bad. It's like 1 star everywhere. This is like a 0-star card, guys. This is really trash. This is the trash of the trash. All right, Auchenai Phantasm, a new priest card. 2 costs 3/2, so it's a well-statted 2-drop, and it gives you as a priest the ability to possibly play this on turn 4 and use your hero power to kill something. The flexibility is just unbelievable. You have the Auchenai effect, but it's on a battle cry. So the good news is it's only until end of turn. The bad news is because it's a battle cry, you can't use like resurrection or summon effects to get this effect in play, which actually doesn't really improve the combo viability ability compared to Auchenai, because Auchenai can be used through setup combos with resurrects or whatnot. So I feel like the combo side of things, it's about as good as Auchenai, but I think it's typically a better tempo card. You want to play this, use the cards that heal to deal damage that turn, and then you're back to being a priest, which is typically a good thing. So I think it's slightly better than Auchenai, and Auchenai makes its place from time to time, so it's got to get the same rating. If I would rate Auchenai 4 stars, I would rate Auchenai 2.0, the Phantasm, also 4 stars. I think in Arena it might be a little bit worse, but that's okay. It's not that much worse, and it's counterbalanced by the, I think, slightly higher flexibility in Constructed. Banana Buffoon, this is pretty crap. Sure, maybe you can, engineer more efficient trades, but probably not. This is a 1-star card. It's probably better in Arena than Constructed, but it's still pretty weak there. Booty Bay Rookie, 2 cost 3/3. Give your opponent a coin. Ooh, boy. So there's 2 cost 3 2s, and yeah. Why not just play one of those? And some of those even have abilities, like the card we just showed 2 cards ago. This is a 1-star card. This is it's pretty bad in Arena and potentially catastrophic in Constructed. Do not put this card in your Constructed deck. Dozing Marksman, 2 cost 0/4, has 4 attack while damaged, so very interesting effect. If you can reliably damage your minions through cards that you'd be playing anyway, this card's actually, pretty high power level. You can maybe get a 2 cost 4/3 from that. Is that good? Yeah, that's pretty good. Now you're talking, But I don't really know how you do that. So with that in mind, it's a 1-star card. It's hopeless in Arena because those effects are actually very rare, and I feel like there's just not enough of what needs to fuel this card for Constructed. So 1-star it is, and next time we move to another card that might look like some pack filler garbage, but it's not. It's Drakari Trickster. 3 cost 3/4, so El Primo Statorino, and give each player a copy of a random card from their opponent's deck. So this is very good. Okay, if you're playing an aggro deck, you just kind of want more cards. So if you're playing an aggro deck, there's very few cases where this is actually bad. Because you're going to run out of cards. If you get something from your opponent's deck, it's just typically going to help you. And it's very rarely that your opponent will be helped more than he helps you. So this is a 3-mana 3/4, and we've seen those in zoo decks several times. So there's some chance it's played in vanilla zoo decks. But here's where this card's really interesting. If you're playing some of the steal effects, possibly the new priest archetype, the priest leader card plays all the cards that are in your hand that didn't start in your deck. Well, that could be very interesting. There's certainly new synergies and new cool things that you could do from a card like this. I don't think it pushes the archetype or anything to new heights, but it's certainly very cool and generally a fairly high power level card in both Arena and Constructed, so I have to give it a fair 3-star rating. Not deck defining, not meta or super crazy good, but I think you'll see a little bit of this card. It's not bad at all. Former Champ, this is kind of like the good Arena card that I'll never see play in Constructed. It's a clear 1-star. I love the theme though, so bonus points for that. Yeah, pretty nice. Gurubashi Offering, 1 cost 0/2. At the start of your turn, destroy this and gain 8 armor. How likely is that? Probably not very likely. Is it even that good if you get it off? Maybe. It really depends on the class. We had warrior cards, 1 mana gain 5 armor, or priest cards, 1 mana heal for 5. They were never really used for that purpose. So this, with the good chance, by the way, that it will not go off, it's pretty crappy, right? So this has got to be a 1-star card, I'm thinking. Maybe there's a deck out there that really protects its minions, and it really just needs a little bit of extra heal health juice. But I cannot imagine what that is. And maybe it's my lack of imagination, or maybe this card is just trash. And as such, I'm rating it 1 star. Also, I would like to note that this card is horrifyingly bad in Arena. Helpless Hatchling, 1 cost 1/1 beast, death rattle, reduce the cost of a beast in your hand by 1. So it looks kind of bad. It might actually be kind of bad, but the idea that they were trying to sell us on the reveal stream is that there are some beasts that are a lot more powerful if they cost 1 mana, and I can buy into that. There's not like any kind of like one-turn kill combos or anything I can think of. But if you're playing a 1 cost 1/1 and you just happen to have one of the beasts that you want to discount, yeah, that might not be too bad. I can't say this card is like crazy or whatever, but I'm not as hopeless on this as many of the other pack fillers, so I can't rate it the same. I gotta give it 2 stars for maybe there is some hope out there for the, well, helpless hatchling. All right, Ice Cream Peddler, 4 cost 3/8. If you control a frozen minion, gain 8 armor. If this is just a battle cry, gain 8 armor, it'd be a pretty good card that would probably see some play, but it's pretty hard to freeze your own minions, actually. And if you can, you have to weigh in the fact that you're typically using cards to do that. So it's pretty rough. Again, I don't think it's completely hopeless because heal effects, armor effects are typically ones that see play, even the bad ones. This is pretty bad, but I'm not giving it a hopeless rating. I'm giving it 2 stars. It's pretty damn hopeless in Arena, but in Constructed, maybe. Regeneratin Thug, 4 cost 3/5. Start of your turn, restore 2 health to this minion. So it's got to live and then live through your opponent's turn. And yeah, I don't know. That's not very optimistic, but the stats aren't too bad. If that can happen once, it's pretty good in Arena. So yeah, it's pretty good in Arena. That's basically the end of story. 1-star card. Nothing to really see here. Rumble Tusk Shaker. This card is pretty bad in Arena, and it's absolutely hopeless in Constructed. 1 star, nothing really to mention. Scarab Egg, I think it's a little bit better than the previous ones because you get so many minions off of the death rattle, and there's actually some synergies for like egg-related things, perhaps. So I don't think this card is particularly powerful, but it could be, mostly looking at like Warlock Zoo stuff, but the fact that it costs 2 mana really hurts. So I look at this card, it's like, would I rather play Keleseth? Yep. Well, Keleseth is rotating out in the next expansion. So next expansion, I think people are going to start taking a look at this card. And as such, I'm going to have to rate it 3 stars. The power level is pretty good, but it's going to be outshined for a while. So don't get too crazy about this right away. But don't forget about the card either. Serpent Ward, 2 for 0/2. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. I don't know why you'd use this over like a 2 mana, 2 damage charger, so I guess it's probably not that good. Maybe there's some kind of totem synergy coming up in the next few expansions, but until then, I think this card is pretty garbage. 1 star it is, pretty garbage in Arena, pretty garbage in Constructed. Shieldbreaker, however, a little bit different. 2 cost 2/1, silence an enemy minion with taunt. I don't know if you've played aggro or against aggro, but typically what happens is silence is exclusively used for taunt. So it's basically just silence. Silence 2 for 2. Is that good? Again, we have the Keleseth problem. So is it good enough to play this over the other forms of silence while giving up Keleseth? Probably not. Keleseth is just kind of strong. So this is actually a good card. I'm going to rate it 3 stars. But again, keep in mind, you're probably not going to see any of this until Keleseth rotates out, which is going to be the next expansion after this one. Spellzerker, 2 cost 2/3, has +2 spell damage while damaged. Is this good? Yes, this card is good. This card looks like a pack filler, but I do not believe it is one. If you're playing a spell damage filled deck, you probably can just like afford to play it on turn 2, and it's a good turn 2 play. 2 mana, 2 3s, that's the kind of stats you want on turn 2. It might even survive a turn to where you can use spells to clear out your opponent the next turn. That's very strong. There's some combo potential in the late game. You can even play this, ping it yourself, and cast like Blizzard for 4. It's a very good card, I think. This card's a 4-star card. It's going to surprise you guys, but this effect is relatively strong. The stats are what make it. If it was like a 2 mana 2/2 with this ability, no chance. But the stats make the card. The stats are pretty good, and that added flexibility of being a good early game card and a good late game card elevates it to, I think, pretty good chance of Constructed viability. Stolen Steel, new rogue card, you get a weapon from another class. I think this is going to be awesome, but I do not see this as a particularly high power level card. I'm giving it 2 stars because maybe there's some chance people play like Tess and Rogue and steal a bunch of stuff. This is one of the things that you'd want to include in that deck. Just that deck kind of sucks right now, and it didn't get that much support, but who knows what we'll see. It's possible. It's not a hopeless card. That's why it gets the double star. Last card on the list here, we got a Shaman 1-drop. It's a 1-cost 2/1s. It's really not bad. This is a card that you can just play on turn 1 and not feel too bad about it. However, if you've played 2 spells, you can deal 2 damage to something. You can do that to face, or you can do that to like the board. The flexibility of the card makes it pretty good, I feel. I think it's a 3-star card, just a pretty high power level. Again, Shaman's going to be all over the place. They got so many strong cards. People are going to, experiment with so many different things. This is included, I think, at least has a chance to be included in the spell-heavy Frog Loa Shaman decks. But again, there's going to be a lot of different Shaman decks, so I can't really say that it's very likely that it'll see constructed play, not because of its power level, just because it's going to be up against so many different archetypes within the class, and there's just going to be so much competition even within those archetypes. That's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed my reviews, and I will have some follow-up videos talking about like the best cards, the top cards, maybe some of the deck ideas I'm going to be building, and we're going to have a pre-release all-day stream on the 30th, so make sure to check that out on my Twitch channel, and that's where we'll really get a grasp for these cards. Hope to see you then, and I'll see you guys in the next one.